You saved $10,000. The market just crashed 15%. Every finance account you follow is screaming the same thing. This is the dip. This is your moment. Buy now. So you do. Then it drops another 20%. You panic, you freeze, and by the time you finally feel safe enough to act again, the market has already recovered without you. Your $10,000 is still sitting in your savings account, doing absolutely nothing, while everyone else made money on the way down and the way back up. That single mistake, repeated over a lifetime, is the difference between retiring comfortably and working 10 years longer than you planned. But before we get into it, if you're new here, welcome. I'm Daniel, and this is Daniel Invest, the channel where we cut through the noise of the financial world and give you clear, honest, data-backed investing strategies that actually work in the real world. No fluff, no get-rich-quick schemes, just the kind of financial thinking that builds real, lasting wealth. If that's what you're here for, make sure you subscribe and hit the bell, because what we're covering today is one of the most debated questions in all of personal finance, and by the end of this video, you're going to have a definitive answer. Today, we're settling the ultimate investing debate once and for all: dollar cost averaging versus buying the dip. Which strategy actually makes you more money? Which one is destroying your returns without you realizing it? And is there a smarter way to combine both that most investors never think about? We're going to cover all of it, with a real 20-year study, real numbers, and one result at the end that genuinely surprised me when I first saw it. Let's get into it. Dollar cost averaging, or DCA, is as simple as investing gets. You pick a fixed amount, you invest it on a fixed schedule. Every week, every month, no exceptions. $200, $500, $1,000, whatever fits your budget. You don't wait for a signal, you don't watch the news every morning. You just invest, consistently, automatically, regardless of what the market is doing. Here's the hidden genius behind it. When the market is up, your fixed amount buys fewer shares. When the market drops, that same amount automatically buys more shares. You are buying more when things are cheap and less when things are expensive, completely on autopilot, without a single moment of stress or decision-making. It's not about timing the market, it's about time in the market. But DCA does something even more powerful than optimizing your entry price. It removes your emotions from the equation entirely. No panic when the market drops, no greed when it spikes, no paralysis when the headlines are terrifying. Just steady, automatic discipline, compounding quietly in the background, month after month, year after year, decade after decade. For anyone earning a regular income who wants to build serious long-term wealth, DCA is one of the most psychologically sustainable strategies ever designed. And as you'll see in the data, it holds up remarkably well against strategies that sound much smarter on paper. Buying the dip sounds smarter. It feels smarter. You wait for the market to fall, 10%, 15%, 20%, then you deploy your cash and load up on discounted shares. Buy low, sell high. Simple, right? In theory, absolutely brilliant. In practice, it requires you to answer 3 questions that are nearly impossible to get right consistently over a lifetime of investing. Question 1. How do you know this is the dip and not just the beginning of a much deeper crash? In 2008, investors who bought the dip in October watched the market fall another 40% before it was over. Question 2. How long are you willing to wait? Are you comfortable sitting in cash for 6 months, a year, 2 years? Because major corrections don't arrive on schedule. Question 3. What is your cash not doing while you wait? Every day your money sits on the sidelines, it's losing purchasing power to inflation, missing dividend payments, and most critically, missing the random best single days in market history that account for the majority of long-term gains. Markets have a brutal habit of doing 2 things that destroy dip buyers. First, they keep dropping after you buy, turning your bargain into a deeper loss and testing every ounce of your conviction. Second, and this is the one nobody warns you about, they recover before you act. You wait for a 10% correction. The market drops 8%. You hold out for more. Then a strong jobs report hits, inflation data comes in cool, and the market surges 12% in 2 weeks. You missed the entire thing, and now you're chasing. That's not a hypothetical scenario. That's what happened to millions of investors in early 2020, in 2022, and in dozens of corrections before that. Now, let's stop theorizing and look at actual numbers, because this is where the conversation gets really interesting. Charles Schwab conducted one of the most cited investing studies of the last 2 decades. They tracked 5 fictional investors over 20 years, from 2003 to 2022, each given $2,000 per year to invest in the S&P 500. Same money, same market,
5 completely different strategies. Investor 1, Peter Perfect, a literal market genius. He invested every single year at the absolute lowest point of the market. Perfect timing, every year for 20 consecutive years. His final result? $138,000. Investor 2, Ashley Action. No timing, no research, no waiting. She invested her $2,000 on January 1st every single year, the very first trading day, no matter what the market looked like. Her result? $127,000, just $11,000 less than perfect timing. Investor 3, Matthew Monthly, classic DCA. He split his $2,000 into 12 equal monthly contributions and invested automatically every month. No decisions, no charts, no stress. His result? $124,000, barely behind Ashley, with zero emotional energy spent. Investor 4, Rosie Rutten, the unluckiest investor imaginable. She bought at the annual peak of the market every single year for 20 years, literally the worst possible timing consistently. Her result? $121,000, nearly triple what she invested in total. And then there's Larry Linger. Larry had cash ready to invest. He just waited. Too nervous in 2003, too uncertain during the recovery, too scared in 2008, too cautious in 2020, always waiting for things to calm down before making his move. Larry's result after 20 years? $44,130. Think about what that means. The gap between perfect market timing and the worst possible market timing over 20 years was just $17,000. But the gap between any strategy and doing nothing? Nearly $94,000 in permanently lost wealth. The market doesn't reward the smartest investor in the room. It rewards the one who showed up.
Here's the part nobody puts in the highlight reel, and it's the reason buying the dip fails for most ordinary investors. It exploits the exact moment when your brain is least capable of rational decision-making. When markets are falling, your nervous system floods with fear. The same ancient survival instinct that kept your ancestors alive, run from the predator, fires in your brain when you see red numbers on a screen. Buying during a crash doesn't feel like opportunity. It feels like voluntarily walking into the fire. So investors do the opposite of what they planned. They don't buy the dip. They sell into it. They freeze. They move their money to cash just temporarily. They wait for just a little more certainty until the dip is gone and the opportunity has passed. Warren Buffett addressed this directly. He said that for the vast majority of investors, the smartest move is to consistently invest in a low-cost index fund. Not because it's the most sophisticated strategy, but because it's the only strategy that systematically removes your worst instincts from the process. DCA works because you're human, not in spite of it. Now, and Daniel wants to be clear about this, choosing DCA doesn't mean you ignore once-in-a-decade crashes. The smartest long-term investors use both. DCA is their foundation, automatic, consistent, emotionless. But they also keep a small strategic reserve, typically 5 to 10% of their investable assets, specifically for genuine historic panic events. Not 5% pullbacks, not an 8% correction. We're talking about true market dislocations. March 2020, October 2008. The kind of fear that makes mainstream news for weeks. The critical difference? They're not waiting for those moments and missing everything in between. They're prepared for them while their DCA engine keeps compounding in the background regardless. That's not market timing. That's disciplined opportunism, and it's a completely different mindset. So here's where I need to leave you with something that's going to stick with you. There is a third strategy, one that statistically outperforms both DCA and buying the dip under specific market conditions. In Schwab's own study, it came in first place, ahead of monthly investing, ahead of strategic dip buying. It's called lump sum investing, deploying all your available capital into the market at once, immediately, without waiting. And the data behind it is genuinely hard to argue with. But here's what the studies don't tell you, what the YouTube thumbnails never show you, and what cost one of my own early investing clients a serious amount of money when he tried it. Lump sum investing has a hidden psychological trap that is so severe, so counterintuitive, and so perfectly timed to destroy your confidence at the worst possible moment, that the majority of investors who try it end up worse off than if they had never heard of it. In our next video, I'm going to show you exactly when lump sum investing crushes every other strategy by a margin that will shock you, and the one specific market condition where it can quietly set your financial progress back by years. If you're serious about building real wealth, not just understanding investing theory but actually executing it without self-sabotage, that video is one you cannot afford to miss. Subscribe, hit the bell, and I'll see you in the next one. This is Daniel from Daniel Invest, reminding you that the best investment you'll ever make is in understanding how to invest. Take care, and I'll see you soon.
Daniel Invest. All content is for educational purposes only and does not constitute financial advice. Always consult a licensed financial professional before making investment decisions.